It's the NPCs, and it's time to
It
record
is.
a episode here. Which, funny enough, this is not an NPCs discuss. This is not a news roundup or anything of the sort. Of course, you're watching this video here, and of course, if you're not listening to the video or watching the video, you are listening to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice. But guess what? We are recording a special episode, at least today, because the day that this episode publishes, which will be June 8th, 2022, will be the 3-year anniversary of the NPCs. Our first episode, of course, Kyle actually was not involved with these until October, we found. But the first episode of the NPCs with myself, Kyle, who's, he's next to me there on Discord, of course, but he's physically here in spirit where we started all of this. So, hi, Kyle.
What's up?
Yeah, see?
I'm here.
And yeah, exactly. And we started it here at my house and we're recording. And the first episode got published on, June 8th, 2019 on SoundCloud because we didn't know where to publish any podcast whatsoever. And it wasn't until we tried to go publish the second episode of the NPCs with Preston, Brandon, and it was supposed to be Dave, but Dave kept on just like disappearing. I don't know where he kept running away to, but we couldn't find him. Nobody could find him. And then it was just like, okay, well, we tried to publish the second episode to SoundCloud and it wouldn't take it. It's like, oh, well, you hit your allotted amount of time you can have for your free account. Now you need to pay. And it's like, we don't even know what's going to happen here. So I ended up finding what has been officially now our platform, Anchor.fm, and have been publishing episodes to that ever since. And I mean, it's funny to think about, especially Kyle, is that even though you weren't there like from the start, like right there in June of 2019, it's us. It's just us now. And so, we're the two longest running ones here, of course, now. And how do you feel after, for you at least, almost 3 years of doing this?
It doesn't feel like 3 years, honestly. I don't know if there's sometimes it feels longer than 3 years. Sometimes, most of the time, it feels not even 3 years. But I think part of that was, we had a giant global pandemic hit, and that interrupted us for a major amount of time, and we've shifted gears a few times. But I don't know. I still enjoy doing it, and it's still a blast, and I don't know. It's one of the things I love.
It really is. It's funny to think about a podcast, especially nowadays, because you are right. Like when we started the podcast in 2019, obviously we weren't in the midst of any sort of pandemic whatsoever. There wasn't any sort of massive upheaval of society that led to us creating this podcast out of simple, just like boredom or anything. It was an idea that Preston had, and he reached out to me, reached out to a few other people, and that's where this came from. But you are right, is that we did endure through the pandemic to a point, and we've experimented with a few things and tried some different stuff over the course of the last 3 years. But you are right, is that it really hasn't been a dull moment. It hasn't been uninteresting, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, definitely not.
I was like, I don't know what other word to use here. That's the best one I think I got. But even with that part of it, though, I guess one of the funny things here I want to do, and of course I know it won't be in the actual podcast episode because people can't see it, but in the video here people will be able to, and I know you will be able to because I'm using Discord to at least catch your video, share my video here at the same time so we can both see each other still. But I have at least a piece of NPC's history here in front of me, which is just funny that I still have it. And this was created by Preston on the first day of our recording. And it's this right here. I don't know if you can see that. It is going to be backwards here on the screen. I wonder if I can actually flip my camera here.
Oh no, it was. I could read it. Yeah.
Let me see. Here.
It was fine.
Let me see here. I gotta just try to find this thing here because I want to fix this video. Let's see. just in case
I
video
hate
settings.
Zelda.
Yeah, so I mean, if you could read it, okay. I know that people at home won't be able to necessarily read it when they're watching the video, but that's okay. So yes, we got the first episode of the NPCs, which episode 1 is called "It's Done, Jen." Don't ask me why. I'm the one who came up with the names of the episodes. But on that first episode, the question was asked, why does Preston dislike Zelda? And we talked about Project Stadia as well, because Google Stadia was only announced like kind of in beta form at least, or was going to be coming soon to beta. Stuff for E3 was coming up too. But yeah, Preston had written this out, and he'd written out the good and the bad of Zelda, and then for some reason literally wrote, I hate Zelda here, and then drew a martini glass for whatever reason. So this was from day one, this artifact of it. And it's something that's been sitting around. I haven't had the heart to get rid of it yet, because of this history of like what we've done to set things up here with this podcast. And it's funny because it kind of set the stage for everything that we did going forward up until probably about early 2021 is when everything really shifted. But what I want to know, at least though, from you, Kyle, first, then I'll talk about a little bit of mine, is, in the things that we've done in the podcast so far, what's one of the things that you feel you've that you've enjoyed the most out of all of it? Like whether it's a moment that we had, whether it's when we got that surprise contract with like Open Critic to do the podcast for them, whether it's I don't know. I mean, there's a litany of things we've done. So I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. The surprise contract was really cool.
Taught us a lot.
Always. What's up?
That contract really taught us a lot, though.
Oh yeah, it did. I mean, it had its ups and downs, of course. It was super stressful, but we did learn a lot during that time, of course. Man, I've always loved talking about the news. I mean, I remember early on when you first started talking, just the news blurbs, and it was like I wanted to interrupt so many times, and just like, oh yeah, we should talk more about that, because I thought it was something interesting, and it was like, the news was always so cool to me. And I don't know. I'm glad we evolved to continue to do that. Because still to this day I get excited. When I wake up and on my phone I see the news, for gaming, and I'm like, oh, we got to report on this. This is gonna be something cool to talk about.
That's a big one, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I have a lot of the just wacky memories, that we've created, like the songbird
my God.
discussion.
I was going to bring that one up too, because that hurt to actually discuss. That was painful.
But man, looking back on it,
I mean, the fact that Songbird came up in one of our discussions recently between you and I outside of recording, because I think it's the BioShock collection. It was a free one on the Epic Game Store, and we started talking about Songbird there. So I had you drop a message to Preston about Songbird, and it was great to just think about how chaotic that discussion.
All it was just F Songbird, and I was just like, oh man, I just want to get a rise out of him, because it. Looking back,
great.
some of the stuff we discussed, and like, we had a lot of really smart discussions about why we felt things deserve those positions when we did the lists. But I don't know, it just, the lists, they were fun, but I don't know, for me it was hard to kind of continue to do them, because at a point it's like, well, some of the lists kind of became the same for me, and I don't know. I'm kind of glad we've changed, and we always like to change even more still. So
no kidding. No, and that's it's funny that you say that, and we can come back around onto those list things here in just a minute, because you're absolutely right. That we we had I would say the litany of discussions that we did end up actually having through the course of, I would say, all of our weekly topic episodes. Definitely, like a lot of that stuff got me thinking a lot more about analyzing games deeper than I had been at some points in time, like really kind of looking at more of the depth of some games that maybe I hadn't previously.
Oh yeah.
So doing a lot of that actually kind of helped to open my eyes. But I would say some of the, I think one of the big ones that really sticks with me to this point in time, and it still just cracks me up when I think about it sometimes, is the fact that we got Preston so wound up with Untitled Goose Game.
Oh man.
And it didn't stop.
Oh.
Like our
Yeah.
joking about Untitled Goose Game got to the point that I wanted to go out and look for a plushie, like a plushie white goose, and put a voice box in it that did the actual Untitled Goose Game honk, and put it on a sensor. So like, you remember how the Furbies used to have that sensor when you'd walk in front of it, then it would actually like move around, the little IR sensor. I wanted to do that. So when Preston would come over and sit on the couch, and like pass by it, he'd see it, but then it would honk at him. I really wanted to do that to him to screw with him. That's one of the big ones. And then of course the game that I never expected to ever learn about in my life, and then of course I did, was Plumbers Don't Wear Ties?
Yeah, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties.
Yeah,
oh,
and
geez.
then
what was it? The KFC boyfriend game?
Oh my God, yeah, when we brought in Brittany there and we were talking about games, and she was talking about that, the KFC dating sim game.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, I knew the game existed, but the depth though that we went into, especially reading some of those reviews, was a little more obscene than we probably should have gotten. And at the same time, I don't know. It definitely went down a rabbit hole that I didn't expect it to go down. But hey, here we are.
Yeah.
So I would say like that was a big one. But like you touched on that with the news. That's something that's always been with me though for a long time now, because, and I think I've made mention of this before in several episodes, but I back in the early or the late 2000s. I tried to do my own video game reviews on YouTube. The videos are still up. And I tried to figure out my own niche for doing things there. And I started to look at doing my own news publishing. But at the same time, I was in college, and I was also working for the newspaper at the college too. And, I couldn't dedicate a lot of time to it. It fell off to the wayside. But over that time period of being in college, even all the way through now, I listened to a lot of NPR. And listening to those news discussion shows, more so like 1A and On Point, those really drove a lot of the ideas I had for what type of discussions I wanted to get into. But our format at that point in time with the lists didn't necessarily allow us to do stuff like that. We could debate, we could go back and forth on where things should be at, and then Preston had his weighted metrics that he used to basically build out where our list was at, depending on how we voted. But it didn't allow for that same type of in-depth discussion that I wanted to have, which we do now with the Discuss episodes, which, to be perfectly honest, that's all we publish anymore are the Discuss episodes and then the audio from the VOD for the news roundup.
Right.
Yeah. But no, those lists definitely, it's like it required a lot of homework out of us. It felt like it was just a lot of heavy lifting to try to get some of that figured out, especially with, like, I know you guys play a lot of video games. I was so far out of the video game scene that I was playing a couple things, but not as much as you guys had played.
Yeah, I don't know. At times, and I'll admit there were times that I tried to shoot from the hip, as they say. Like
happens.
Going into a discussion, and it almost never worked, because it was like, I really wanted to, have a strong argument for a character, and because I hadn't prepared for, on that night for the discussion, I maybe didn't have as strong of an argument that I could have. And yeah, I feel you on the heavy lifting side in that aspect. But I don't know, it was still kind of fun, but I feel like at the time too, I was seeing a lot of popularity out of other list shows, like with like What Culture and some of the other ones, and I was seeing their popularity and the you know their format, and I didn't know if we quite matched what they were, but to the same effect, we were also having way stronger discussions than what they brought up.
True, because they would build
And
out
it
those lists and then they would, um, oh, what is it? They would just build out the list and then they would provide some details, then move on. It would be like quick, like couple minute lists. That was it.
and then at a cruel irony, there were a few weeks that very similar lists would pop up after we had done lists, but I'm sure it was nothing but ironic.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah, like that's what I was going to mention too was IGN lists. Just like look at the top
yeah,
weapons here. And like Preston would immediately drop a message as soon as that. It's like IGN ripped us off, and we'd like compare the lists and be like
some of our
relatively
lists
close.
were pretty close. So I
Yeah,
mean, if nothing else, we were on point. We were on point.
no kidding. It's just funny to think about like that happened. But I mean, it wasn't even necessarily that we were on point though with it either. It's just that out of all the popular games that are out there anywhere, at least out of all the games that are out there, the weapons you're going to remember are those from the popular series. Like
Right.
really like the Blades of Chaos from God of War or the Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts. Those are the ones that are really going to stick around in people's memory because those are from the more popular games.
Right.
That's going to happen. But again, just yeah, the level of closeness, I don't know maybe if that's the right word either. I'm not an English major, but the level of closeness though that there was between those our list and IGN was just funny. Especially
Yeah.
because we published first and then IGN dropped theirs and it's like, are we being ripped off here or something? IGN, do you need to cut
Right?
us a check? So
Is someone actually listening out there that needs to be talking to us?
yeah, that's really what that is. So it was a chore to build that, but it definitely did offer a lot more discussion that I think led us to where we analyzed the games more for what was within them and more of the nitty gritty and granular details than just like, oh, this is the best game ever because just these two things. No, it was definitely a lot more emphasis on the heart and soul of a game to really rank it where where we felt like it should have been at in those lists.
Oh yeah, and I definitely after doing the lists and stuff, there's definitely some sort of level of analytical thinking of why a character does what they do, or how they are, or who they are, or why they are who they are um in the game, just because of those lists, like even more so than I did before. I tend to piece it apart, I think.
Yeah, and that was one of those that I had kind of done like prior to, but I really changed my tone on a lot of stuff, especially as we went on, because I mean the formats of our episodes really kind of changed, where we had discussion episodes, right off the bat, we talk about just the whole episode was just us talking about video game stuff in general, and then we do like the whole kind of like top 10 list sort of thing, and then we split it off to what are you playing and the top 10 whatever, and then you and I started doing the news separate because that segment in there wasn't really popular with Preston and Dan, so we took that separate to being the live stream. And then it was last year, 2021 is when everything shifted even more because we brought up some ideas about some adjustments, some changes to maybe just include, not necessarily to pull away from anything. And then that was where we kind of decided, or at least it was kind of mutually decided there, that Preston had an idea for other stuff than what we had an idea for. And Preston went off to do his own thing, which, as far as I know, he's still publishing videos, though, of his own reviews of games and his own take on what he would change about them while we continued on with the podcast.
Yeah, and I mean some of his second take, I think it's Second Take or Take Two or
Take Two is
I
the name of his channel, but I think it's like,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. It's like Second Take, Second Opinion. It's like that's what he called the
Yeah, so
videos.
some of those they do bring up some really really good bullet points that are worth checking out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, especially I think it's the amount of time that he actually takes to think about what these adjustments are, and it's not just shooting stuff, just right out there and just saying, "Oh, change this, change that." He actually provides pretty good, like really good analytics into where these changes are coming from and what type of benefit you actually gain from having some of those adjustments.
right.
So they are good. I just don't know how long it's been since he published one. So even with that, he went off and did that, and then it's just been you and I doing what we've been doing now so far, which we got away from talking about what games we're playing, and I think we'll celebrate, of course, this third anniversary by getting into some of that here in a little bit. But we also, we opened up the idea of the discuss, the
Hmm.
idea of taking a particular topic in the video game world and dissecting it down, looking at the history of it and looking at what's happening with it as it builds up to now and what it could be looking like in the future. And that is where some of that NPR type programming that I enjoy and listen to on a daily basis kind of started to play into it with the design and notes and details that we put into those types of discussions.
See, and for a good many years, I had listened to NPR on the radio just when I had FM, and fortunately, the vehicle that I have now has XM in it. That I I I think my parents still pay for, so I mean it's their vehicle. But,
Forget NPR, listen
um,
to Howard Stern 24/7.
right? Yeah, no, I listen to just a rock channel that plays more modern stuff, but or a good blend, but prior to that, it was all NPR, and yeah, I've really enjoyed moving towards that format of the discussion, especially because we try and stay on a lot of the hot button topics with, the uh, uh, NFTs and some of like the DRM stuff that's happened recently, and just some of the craziness that's gone down, especially like with game streaming. I mean, we've always uh, tried to stay relatively on top of, if not, a week or two behind. But always with, the good information on it.
Yeah, like I looking at some of our discuss episodes here. I'm going through the podcast episodes right now. Is like we talked about online only stuff, video game preservation, live service games, cheating and hacking, PC gaming on the go, next gen hidden costs, consoles, the next home PC, which is one of our more popular ones that we've done. Yeah, exactly. Is that we've really taken the time to not necessarily hit like the hot button issues hardcore, like we're for or against this, or we hate what they're doing, or we love what they're doing. I feel like we find ourselves some good balance in things that are good and things that are bad about some of these topics that we do get into. We're not very partisan, I guess, on the subjects that come up.
Right.
Although, except we do kind of have an affinity for Xbox Game Pass if you go back and listen to a lot of that.
I
But,
mean,
it's
yeah,
not,
I mean,
it's
we
not
could
wrong, I
easily
guess. But
be supported by Microsoft, and that wouldn't be an issue. But I mean, that all has to do with value and the fact that it's just been there for us since before it was Game Pass, and then it evolved into that. So it was like the benefit just kept growing as it went along.
exactly. And that's just as we've moved on in doing all of our different discussions, we effectively have been paying for Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate the entire time. And it's very, it's very understood that that's just what we spend a lot of time pulling our games from and doing. It's not to say that we're not buying games. It's just it's just what we're spending a lot of our time on. So,
Right.
but needless to say, it looks like you were going to say something though.
Oh no, I had a thought, but I didn't know that I was going to necessarily say anything. But really and truly, I mean, I do pay for other online memberships. I pay for PlayStation Plus, just the basic what it would be now, or the essential. But I still get my free games from PlayStation. I pay for my Nintendo Online membership. It's just the reason I talk about Xbox a lot is because it offers me such great benefit. I mean, it's got that cycling catalog of games that I may not touch very often, but when I do, I can hit it hard and I'm still playing new stuff. So,
And there's Kyle proving the point.
yeah, I'm off the soapbox now, I promise.
As we kick that soapbox away and it shatters into a million
Yeah.
pieces. So I guess what's interesting though too is some of the other things that that we were doing, but we haven't done though with the podcast itself that we kind of were working towards, and then things just kind of happened, like got in the way. Like I guess a couple good examples is that it's like video game reviews. We were trying to do videos for that. I know you haven't made one before, but that's whatever. We have like doing game streams. We tried to do some of those, and sometimes the coordination and effort to get a stream up and running, especially with a busy
or the
life,
failure of my internet.
or your internet that continuously dies.
Yeah.
We've also got I tried to do the quick save episodes here at the beginning of this year, which were supposed to be 5 to 8 minute videos that were summarizing the news from those past couple days. Just trying to make some sort of just like quick, easy, digestible video there for YouTube. And those did well, but then I ran into some personal issues and some distractions that wouldn't let me focus enough to sit down to keep working on them. And I keep wanting to come back to do more of the quick saves, but there's also part of me too that I don't know. I just haven't found the right, I guess, part of it motivation. The other part of it is, I guess, differences that I can introduce there besides what I had been doing originally.
Right.
I think a lot of inspiration from things like Tech Linked from Linus Media Group. They are one example, of course, for the news blurbs, though. So that's why it's like I just that kind of fell off the wagon too. But we did mention it earlier, though, anyway, is that, of course, one of the interesting things we had, especially last year, is we had that contract with Open Critic to make a podcast for them. And they reached out to us to do. And that kind of opened up our eyes into not only the commercialized part of it, because we were, it was a contract, there was revenue being made from it, at least for, we were being paid for our services to make it. But it definitely opened our eyes to more of like the somewhat corporate side of it, just because of the deadlines, the expectations on format, the intro and outro stuff we had to record too, the things we had to also include. It definitely was. It definitely ate into a lot of our time because we had those deadlines we had to meet, and sometimes we actually just hit the deadline to turn something in because we have other things we have to worry about in our lives too.
Right.
Yeah. Needless to say, I mean, it was a good experience. We learned a lot from it, though, and it was what kind of gave me the idea to go along with doing the quick saves. But yeah, it's just, it's just time. It's just when you're so busy doing so many other things. You got family, work, and all these other things to worry about, plus then trying to just have leisure time, to play the video games you want to talk about. Just kind of eats into you a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I know, of course, having to work the 5 days a week, on my end. I know you work 5 days as well, but my days are separated, unfortunately, and they're kind of weird times. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, to coordinate certain aspects of the podcast and make stuff happen. But with other limitations, then interrupting it, then stuff falls on the wayside, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, and that's just kind of life, though. Anyway, is
Yeah.
Like we had talked about there kind of at the beginning, is that the podcast endured through the pandemic. The podcast pushed through, and we kept making content. We figured out ways to make it work. Was it frustrating to make it work? Yeah, because especially like trying to edit the audio from everybody else's recordings was kind of a pain sometimes, because you got to listen out for that background noise to try to clear up, and you do your best to adjust, and it's sometimes a nightmare that you would spend hours trying to actually clean up this audio, and you do it week after week after week. It just kind of kicked the crap out of you. So needless to say, it's like there were some things that were a drag during the pandemic, but the fact that we were able to at least kind of, that we were able to at least move forward still and come up with a couple new things, I feel at least means that we were successful, and we've still been successful. At least in my mind, we have been, we've been successful to this day.
I think so. And though our viewership may have only grown slightly in the last couple years, I still feel like the fact that we've still been able to generate new topics and been able to successfully create a decently long discussion that's meaningful and put out content that we feel is meaningful to us, that I think other people should listen to, because I have an opinion on it, and I think my input should be heard too, on some of the topics we talk about, but I don't know.
I think you pretty well summed it up there. I don't think there's really much else to add.
Right.
I mean, I think that with what we've done so far, I think there's some things that we want to evolve to really do more of. It's just, it is the time. It is the time and dedication to try to do that. I mean,
Right.
We set aside time in the week to do the podcast and the news, through the week, and try to make sure that we have the time. So, I mean, we play games literally almost every night. I think maybe 1 or 2 nights a week, you and I are not playing games together, but every other night you and I are playing games. But even with that, it's, yeah, I mean, things are still getting done. We're still learning a lot of stuff, but wow, just a lot happening that, doesn't let you prepare sometimes to be able to go the next step. You know what? That's okay. That happens.
It happens, but like I said, we still, I feel like we still put out that content that's up to the minute, like, and I know I go back to it a lot with like the NFTs and the streaming and stuff, but we try and stay on top of that, and I feel like putting out that information, and having another outlet, of another opinion, is good, and not only that, it's just kind of fun for us. It gives us something to do, and it's an outlet for us to express the things we enjoy.
Exactly. That's where I get my enjoyment out of it, is that we can talk about a topic of some type here, and we can do a little bit of research because we may have some of the experience on the topic already going into it, especially you, Kyle, with having worked at GameStop and seeing a lot of things behind the scenes. I just, the ADHD just lets me absorb a lot, and sometimes that ends up being a burden. But needless to say, even with where we're at right now and what has been going on, I feel like we've done a decent job, and that we both are definitely more cognizant of things out there in the industry that someone just reading Video Games Chronicle or Kotaku or seeing something on Twitter may not fully, may not fully understand or realize. They read the news and they're like, oh, that's, that happens. That's understood. Or, oh, that's terrible. Okay. But I think we've done enough, though, that, and this is kind of patting ourselves on the back or tooting our own horn here, but I feel like we're better at analyzing and looking at that data and information.
Yeah, and we've definitely grown a lot in that area of, you know, gathering the right information, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think we've really ever hit a point where the information we gather has even been like bad information. Um, it's been sometimes a little misguided depending on where we pull things from, but it doesn't mean it's like wrong. It just means that we have to add in additional stuff. Our research
Right.
went far, but not far enough to get all the information we wanted. But you know what? Screw it. That's okay. We're good. Of course, now that we are getting into effectively our fourth year, what do you want to do different though? Have you put any thought in anything you want to try to do different? Is there anything you want to maybe give a shot on? I mean, I know I'm putting you here on the spot, so forgive
Oh
me for that
man,
part. But
yeah. I mean, there's always stuff that we talk about trying to accomplish and trying to do, and every year we get a little closer. I feel like, or we take another step in that direction. Especially with like when we've done our live streams or our co-streams and stuff, and um, just playing games and trying to have discussions while doing the gaming as well. Um, but I don't know. I always say I'd like to do more of it. Of course, I'm gonna say that, but I feel like that's just another outlet so we can get our voice out there, but also while we're getting to do more of what we enjoy.
bada bing, bada boom, dude. That pretty much is it, dude. Huh?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's the thing that like I appreciate about it is we can get out there and do that. Uh, but I guess before we transition over here to kind of going back to, some of the stuff we used to do there, especially with talking about what we've been playing in that too, because I know we got ourselves a laundry list of that. Would you like to know something interesting here, Kyle,
What's
about
that?
how like what we've been doing here? Um, so in our podcast itself, I actually had to go download the statistics here for this because there's no just accurate count just a number I can find.
Hmm.
In the course of these 3 years, granted it hasn't been weekly, we've tried our best to put out a couple episodes every week or an episode a week. Based on the current tally from Anchor.fm, we are sitting at, as of this episode, when this goes live, if these numbers are right, this will be our 180th episode.
Holy cow.
180 episodes. Yeah, that's pretty big, especially. And it's funny. It's like 180 episodes have been created, and you think it's like that's taking the news into account in some cases. Not every VOD for the news was converted to a podcast, to for
Right.
something to just listen to. But there were quite a few out there, and then even if you tally up all of the news live streams we did that weren't either, I mean that's a lot of time for us to dedicate to doing stuff like this, just for recording. That's not the editing, that's not the publishing, that's not the preparing, anything
Right.
like that. So not only is this the 3-year anniversary, but it's also the 180th episode,
Crazy.
or at least
Crazy,
180th
crazy.
published episode. Yeah.
There are critically acclaimed sitcoms that don't even last 180 episodes. So awesome to us.
We just need more people to listen to us still, though, too.
Right?
Talking
Tell your
to you.
friends. Tell your mom. Tell your mom's friends.
Tell your mom. Yeah, tell your mom's friends. But then the video games. Well, I take that back. There are a lot of millennials out there who are parents now, so we might actually be
Yeah.
okay. We might be able to hit that demographic. So, oh man. Well, I guess let's use this opportunity actually to go ahead and jump in to basically what we consider our classic format on some of this anyway. Let's get into what we used to what we used to do here, especially with the podcast itself, is talk about our what are you playing, talk about the stuff we have the stuff we have going, and it's funny to think about, dude. Before we get into talking about like the games we have been playing, I know that you've got a laundry list you're ready to go through. Just I see the scroll like mentally unrolling in your head right now of all the things.
Oh my!
But we don't need to cover
man.
we don't need to cover months. We can obviously just talk about more of the recent stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I'm only gonna cover the bases, but there's still like a lot of bases.
Oh yeah, I agree. But what I want to say at least about this is that before the podcast itself started, I hadn't really spent a lot of time buying or playing a ton of games. A lot of the stuff I ended up actually spending time playing was just the same stuff over and over again. I spent a lot of time in PUBG and Counter-Strike and I guess just not even necessarily free to play games per se, but I didn't play a lot of games that had story. Something had changed when I went into PC gaming that just kind of pulled me away from that. And so I was playing a lot more of just your shooter multiplayer games. I wasn't doing a lot of that. But since actually, doing the podcast, it brought me back into doing a lot more of that stuff. Like things like beating Titanfall 2 finally, Link's Awakening, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Those are at least the three I can name off the top of my head. But those are at least a couple I can make mention of because it's like those are at least they have a story to them. They are games that, sure, granted, Titanfall is a shooter with multiplayer, but it's a story I'd never played. So it was interesting to go back and, live up to, or at least be able to play some of those and feel like I could contribute in some way too. So that was nice.
Right.
But yeah, of course, now I wanted to make mention of that. I should have made mention of it before we started getting into this anyway. My bad. But start us off then, Kyle. Tell me, what have you been playing?
Oh man, what have I been playing? So, I have to mention it because I did play it a little bit today. Played some Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm only about a quarter way through that game, I feel like.
I thought you would have had it beat by now.
I would have thought so too.
It's all those damn Lego sets and Gundam sets and
yeah, I know. And of course, I've got one in the background, just like in pieces right now because I've got one bag of Legos going for a set. But yeah, I don't know. It feels awful samey. Like the world is really interesting. A lot of the stuff that happens in the world and in the environment, it's realistic, and then when it's not realistic, it's really cool. When you see like the first time you see the 100 yokai parade or the parade of 100 demons or whatever, it's so awesome when it goes through the street. The sky's darkening and everything, but the subtle nuances kind of wear off after a while, and it just becomes very fetch questy. And unless you're sticking to the main story and not doing a bunch of the fetch quests, which at some point coming up is going to become very necessary to just do fetch quests over and over to progress the storyline, it gets really samey and kind of boring. But the world stays interesting. I mean, it's Tokyo. And that's really cool, but there are some limitations as well. Like there are only certain stairwells you can climb, or certain areas you can go into, and of course there's this miasma that's surrounded the city. That if you wander outside into the miasma, outside of the areas that you've so-called cleansed, then you pretty much instantly die. Until you've cleansed those areas. And I have a feeling that once you get to a certain point, the miasma is always going to just be around you just to kind of keep you in that certain area of Tokyo. But I still enjoy it. It's still fun. Graphically, it's really pretty. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those ones that it's real easy to pick up and play only in bits and pieces because it gets samey really quick.
Well, that's interesting though, like that you talk about like realism, and there was so much that had stuck out about the potential for realism in that game when all of the different trailers came out for Ghostwire. And then when you started playing it, like, because I hadn't watched any footage of it after it was released, I didn't watch any reviews or anything, but you had streamed it to me through Discord, and I watched you play it a bit there before we did something else. And I can understand a little bit of the realism, but there wasn't enough that stuck out that made me think that, at least that really kind of put me into that same spot for realism, though. Like they're obviously, of course, there were the aesthetics of what you'd expect to see in Japan, like the design of the environment, from the way the buildings are to the smaller minute details when it comes to, like the shoe racks in a building or the umbrella holders or the bicycle stands. Those types of
Right.
things, definitely add to it, but the way that some of the ghosts are presented in there, and then of course a lot of the magic that goes to, or your ability, I guess. I don't know if I want to call it magic, I guess,
Yeah.
but it really, I don't know where the realism part is necessarily in the rest of it, unless it's just the environment as a whole,
It's
save
the
for the ghost
environment.
parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the care that they've taken into making the environment seem realistic, I guess. It has the subtle nuances that definitely would make it a Japanese environment, and you wouldn't see it in like any other environment. Like if you were to put someone in a place, on a street or whatever, they'd be like, if there weren't any signs or anything around, they'd be like, I'm definitely in Japan, and you get that feeling, the tight spaces, like you said, the shoe racks, the bicycle stands. It feels very Japan, but other than that, some of the reflections are really cool. I don't know if they're necessarily realistic, because they do rely on that, maybe that hyper realism that makes it look fake.
Okay, well,
RTX, it does that thing.
RTX.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's computer graphics in general.
I know it
They
is.
try and do so much to make things look realistic, and you go to a certain point and you've done too much.
Yeah, and that sometimes ends up being the downfall, is that you spent so much time on the realism part, it's like the gameplay can potentially suffer.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least in Ghostwire it
thinking
hasn't,
back
though,
even
right?
to what's up?
The actual gameplay hasn't really suffered, though, in Ghostwire, just because because of the focus on
It
the
runs
realism.
smooth. The gameplay's fun. I don't know. Sometimes it can be a bit slow, I would say. Even in the combat, just because you're so limited to those particular abilities and bow and arrow and running. It's like you
Yeah, there's
have
that, I
these
guess.
like crazy magic powers, but the craziness is only goes so far.
Yeah, that's fair. But
Like you can jump off a 30-story building, but you can't fly up it without the help of a yokai.
and all I see in my head is, like, when you talk about yokai, all I think of is just like Yokai Watch and one of those the little Pokemon type ghosts that's in there, and it's like that's what
Oh,
you're
God.
interacting with instead. And I'm just like, oh, geez. So, but besides that, though, I mean, you said you're like, what, a quarter of the way through, you think, in the game?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe closer to a third, but it gets sloggy for me. Like I know it's not that long of a game, and I've probably put way more time than necessary into it, just wandering around because the environment's cool. But I mean, the combat, there's not a lot to the enemies. There's a lot of the same like 5 enemies around that I fought all the time, over and over. Their tactics never change. If once you get pretty decent at sneaking, you can sneak up on, I'd say, 80% of the enemies and just expel them right away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's wow. Okay. But even so, I mean, outside of that slog, really, that is, some of the grindy parts of it, though, it's still enjoyable, right?
Oh yeah, no, the story is really interesting. Um, of course, the lore is on point. Especially for all the yokai and stuff. They nailed it.
Good.
I'm fairly certain, there really weren't too many, because I'm trying to remember who it was published by. That was Bethesda. So I mean, it's not like they have a huge Japanese studio. I mean, Tango Gameworks, but it, are they based out of Japan or
That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
question. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever the case is, their lore on the yokai and stuff is on point. You get to see a lot of yokai that you would see on like anime or um just hear about crazy legends or something about in if you read history books that it had involved yokai.
Mm-hmm.
That it it's just really cool seeing them because they illustrate them just how they would have been illustrated in 16th century depictions of them.
Yeah, and that's okay. That definitely helps with the grounding and realism. Again, I still imagine
Yeah.
just a ghost Pokemon yokai from Yokai Watch, whatever, still like just following you around, or that's what you're kicking the crap out of. So I can't help it though,
Yeah.
because it's just because you say yokai. I know yokai in
Yeah,
Japanese is
it's a
ghost, but it's
Japanese demon, yeah, or
yeah, it's still
ghost.
it's just funny that it's just that's stuck in my head. I forgive me, internet, for that. That just happens.
But yeah, I mean, other than Ghostwire, I mean, here recently, I've played actually very little of that. It just happened to be that I played it for like 2 hours today. Um,
There you
I've
go.
been playing a lot of arcade games. I picked up Dragon Ball Fighter Z. I suck at that now. Same with Street Fighter and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom.
Are you playing Street
But
Fighter
I've
5?
been
Is it 5 or
I'm
something
actually
else?
playing Ultimate Street Fighter 4.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting for another sale on Street Fighter 5, and they just had another season launch not that long ago. And I know they had the announcement trailer for 6 and everything, but I'll wait till the final version of 5 is out that has all the characters, before I decide to actually pick that one up, I think.
Okay.
The one game that I've been having the most fun with the arcade still, I guess there's two. Um, so one of them, of course, is a fighting game, Soul Calibur 6. Played tons of it, went through all the character stories, except for the few that you have to unlock the last bits through the Libre of Souls or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically your own character creation and story mode for your own character. Um, Having tons of fun with it again though. I've probably put 150 hours on that on the Xbox One, and I'll probably put another 150 hours on it. And playing with the arcade stick, it just brings a whole new life to the game. I feel like I'm doing the combos a lot better, which is something that I felt like I was doing worse on with Street Fighter and Marvel and Dragon Ball. Um, but yeah, I was just having a blast with that one. And the other one, I'm actually on the final boss fight for, and it's not an arcade stick game, and it being on the final boss fight for sure makes note of that is Trek to Yomi.
Yeah.
Excellent game. Um, I like I probably put I'd say almost double the time. Probably half again as much as it takes to beat the game in the game. I had a slow start on it, especially
Yeah.
learning the timing to the parry and stuff. And granted, I after a while I did start sticking to one combo over and over again. But as far as the story goes and the gameplay, even though that the gameplay is somewhat repetitive, it's just really fun and it's definitely unique. They created, a really cool story about a samurai that would be, almost like in a Kurosawa film, and they
Oh
stayed
yeah.
true to the style all the way through.
Oh yeah. And how many hours do you have in that again?
Oh man,
Because I
let
know
me
we talked about
check
that
real
before
quick
too, but
because
you probably
I've
put
got it
more time
pulled
into it
up.
than I last recall. Because I just looked at
Oh
mine and
shoot,
I've only got like just under an hour in there so far, but I agree with you. It's definitely very the challenge is
where do you
great in it.
check the game
I
time
actually
on
had to
that?
go. I actually had to go in the Xbox app on my phone and
Oh,
bring up
okay.
Trek to Yomi here in my achievements, and then there's a option here called Stats that says time played, and I'm at 43 minutes.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's in the Game Pass app or the
No, that's just the
Xbox
regular
app?
Xbox app.
Oh, okay.
But no, you're right.
Yeah.
It's like Ghost of Tsushima was, a great game, and that really like that kind of set the precedent for some of these other games coming out. Now, granted, Trek to Yomi isn't a clone of Ghost of Tsushima, but it's in the same time period. It follows, it's not even like a similar pattern to the game. I mean, it's not open world like Ghost of Tsushima is, but the way the narrative is built out really falls in line with each other. It feels like they did their best to stay true to the lore and to the history of feudal Japan. But of course, with being in the side scroller type view, it is 3D in the sense of the way the animation is, but it's still side scrolling. You can't just go and adventure everywhere. But the side characters are good. I like the little bits of story that you get. The sword play is really good too. It is a little bit of a frustration to actually sometimes get those combos down. I think it might just be my own fault because I'm not fast enough, and that's why I have problems with Souls games. But no, I like the art style. I like the direction the story's going. It's a very generic story when it comes to something like this. Like it really does pan out to be like some sort of generic story, but even so, it's still enjoyable. Like I for the a little bit of time I put into it, I love it.
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely been loving it so far. It actually does not say. I tried to pull it up on here, and it's not telling me how much time I've put into it. I don't know if it's because I'm playing it on PC or what. But
It's a good question.
yeah, huh? Yeah, I don't know why, but it does not seem. I'm trying to scroll down through to see if maybe if I select it
I've got it for you, Kyle. I found it for you.
Oh, did you?
I have your stats. You ready?
Yeah.
So remember, I said I've played 43 minutes. You've played 20 hours and 53 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I'm probably about 7 hours past what it actually takes to beat the game.
And you've gotten 11 of 28 achievements.
Yeah. I've very short on the achievements. And like I said, I'm on the final boss fight. So, but the final boss is, God, what a bee. I'll tell you what. You take like 3 hits and you're down, at least on the mode I'm playing in. Because I am playing on the most difficult mode you can play on, until you unlock the absolute most difficult mode. But I tend to do that just because if I play a game on normal, I feel like I run through them and I don't necessarily enjoy them or get as much out of them. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I can't do those higher difficulties because I want to enjoy the game first. And I feel like a higher difficulty that's just forcing me to, play through something that I've never played before like that. At least, I don't know exactly what the difficulty is going to be like going into it. Sure, it's going to say hard, but what is the definition of hard in something like this? Whereas like in a shooter, I could kind of put that together, but I don't have a game to compare to Trek to Yomi to be able to say, okay, the hard, like the hard difficulty is going to be like this.
Oh yeah, and I can honestly say, where you're at now in comparison, my life bar is probably 4 times the size of yours, and it still only takes the final boss
Probably
like 3-4 hits to kill me. And one of the times he'll go, it's this like combo that all he's doing is he's flicking the sword tip up and down, but it does so much massive damage if you aren't blocking or if you don't dodge away or past him, you're going to die just instantaneously. And then he has 2 forms. So there's that. And in the middle of the second form, he interrupts it with enemies that attack you. But they're also part of his forms, I think. So I don't know. I haven't been able to get past like the 3/4 mark on that fight yet. But I've also gone through the entire game with an arcade stick, even though that it does require the D-pad, at times to select different weapons or to do different stuff in the menu.
Yeah, because that's one of those things is that's like I keep using the swords. I have the bow shuriken, but I haven't properly figured out how to use them. It's like I know I've seen the controls and I've thrown them accidentally, but I haven't figured out the actual like
You know,
properly call them and use them.
yeah, honestly, you can use
That's
them
my own
to
fault.
quickly take out an enemy or as a quick interrupt. That's about all they're good for. But if
Okay.
I used them as a quick interrupt, honestly, especially during boss fights, you can do some heavy damage. Like if you want to interrupt them and then run up to them, it works really well.
Okay. Good to know then.
Yeah. Other than that, started original Resident Evil over again today because
Nice.
I saw that they had a massive Resident Evil sale that like all the Resident Evils are on sale cheaper than I've ever seen them before, and it's pretty much across all consoles until the 12th on Steam, and I think the 17th on certain consoles. But
Okay.
yeah,
So
it
like
caused me to.
which version of the Resident Evils are they? Are they the remastered versions, the classics? What are they?
Yeah, so it's actually
Because I'm
the
gonna look right now.
remastered versions. I downloaded the remastered 1 and 2, I think or it was 0 and the first one for I think set $5, $6, and then I downloaded it was another pack that had Revelations and Revelations 2 along with 5 and 6 um for I think $30, and then I got Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake for like $20 or $30.
That's not too bad.
Yeah. So I got a boatload of games for like I think it was about $75.
Okay. Yeah, and I can't look at anything here on the store on the Xbox app. So, oh well. I believe you though.
But yeah, went through the first part of Chris's story, like the first like hour,
Yeah.
and saved one time and got outside. Or it was just after I placed the no, I was further than the arrow. I was doing a bunch of other stuff inside and walked past a zombie and also did not have any healing items on me and died. So I'm back to like 5 minutes
No.
after the beginning of the game. So that's awesome. But it saves me a bunch of daggers to restart because I missed running past 2 zombies, so that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just like, I wonder if the sales there, just because of all the announcements for Resident Evil with the state of play uh, just the other day, was that
I imagine that's got to be
because
part of it.
RE4 is getting the remaster, which we knew was rumored,
Mhm.
and then Resident Evil Village is going to PSVR 2. So it's like, okay, are we going to, like, is this tied in with it in some way or form? I mean, you've got enough hype for Resident Evil, but I mean, come on. It's like
Well, and
there's enough out
I've
there.
been wanting to buy the HD remaster or HD rendition of 4 for probably about a year and a half now. No, about a year since I
Okay.
built my desktop computer, and I couldn't pass it up at this price. That was in the pack with Revelations as well. Was the Resident Evil 4, and I've been wanting to play it again so bad, and now was the time. So, especially after seeing that announcement.
Well, that's nice then, at least on that one. I mean, you
But
were able to get those games that you'd been wanting, for a while at least, but now you've got them, and
mhm.
I guess that's another thing for you to push through, unless you just decide to throw that aside and it's like, hey, guess what? Time for Halo Infinite or Diablo Immortal
Right.
or something else.
Um,
I don't know. We got other games to play still too.
last one before I get into the two that we've been really hitting hard was Fall Guys. I got addicted to that right before of course, like 2 months before the announcement that it was going to be
That's
free. I
right.
picked
Yeah,
it up for like $7,
that's right.
but I don't know. I got to go through a season. I know what's coming, kind of for the upcoming season. I'm really excited for you to get a chance to play it. I think we'll have some fun on that. And it's just a silly game show, and it's one of those things you can hop on. You can play like 2 or 3 runs and get your dailies done and just have some fun and wind down with it to get away from a different game for a minute.
Yeah, and that's, like the success of Fall Guys again during the pandemic, just like Among Us, really took off.
Mhm.
It's just interesting that that's the one that you've kind of gotten addicted to as of late, though. But maybe that is just the case. It's just it is the replayability that you die, you can get back into another game, and you can get back into it faster than say something like queuing up in Halo Infinite or like another battle royale game, even for example, and you can just keep going and going and going.
Well, and there's a lot less frustration, I think. Of course, you die over and over and over again
Yeah.
in like Halo,
Mhm.
because we've been playing tons of that, and it gets frustrating. Whereas, if you get knocked out in a match, you're out. You can hit the B button real quick after you're eliminated, pop out of the match. You get all your bonuses. You for the round, and then you can hop into another match in less than 30 seconds, and you start your next run of matches. So it's fun. It's just wacky, and it's very low. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't say low key. Like, it's very simple in comparison to like something like Halo, but still it can get frustrating. But to the same effect, that I mean, it's not that same level of frustration. It's like, okay, I'm just done, whatever. But then
Yeah,
on to
that's
the other
good.
two.
Yeah.
Of course, Halo, tons of that.
Dear God.
I'm halfway through the current season already.
Same.
Actually, just over halfway through. You're more than halfway through, and Diablo, tons of Diablo Immortal. Since the launch just a couple days ago. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
tons. I've
It's
played
only been out a couple
a
days
few
though.
times.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
got it on mobile. And let's see, no, we both preloaded it through battle.net, and then it became available a day early on mobile. And then, yeah, we've been playing it, off and on at least in the last couple days. But
I was actually pre-registered for that for a year and a half, I think.
yeah, and man, Diablo Immortal, like I played some Genshin Impact this earlier this year because I grew curious about a lot of it because it's like, okay, this is super popular. What is it that's driving people back into playing this? To have this, and the idea of the cross progression by playing on your phone and playing on your computer, carrying over those stats without having to do any sort of voodoo magic to make it happen. That's just cool. That's a great idea. The better part though is that what you're playing on PC, even though granted it's got the same microtransaction environment as it does on the phone, while you're playing on PC, the interface and the actions and things you're messing with only slightly resemble what you're doing on the mobile version. And so it feels like you are playing the same game, but you're playing it like truly on two separate platforms though. It's not like it's a cut and paste. However, Diablo Immortal, dear God, that is a cut and paste of the mobile game to PC.
I mean, there's some slight differences, but only ever slight.
Most of it's just in the settings. Like that's
Yeah.
where most of it is, but even
Well,
so,
It's funny that you say settings because apparently there's an issue that you cannot change the settings on PC currently. It's locked at your mobile graphics settings.
well, okay, so I'll counter that because I was able to do it. The only problem,
Oh,
though,
you were? Okay.
yeah, that was yesterday. The problem that I have with it though is that I can change my frame rate in the PC version. I could change it in the mobile version too, but it maxes out at 60. But I can change the frame rate in the PC version. I can't change the resolution, and according to people on Reddit and on Twitter, it is stuck at 1080p, and I can't get past it. I play on a 2K monitor, and so I have it blown up to 1920 by 1080 to the 2560 by 1440, and it's definitely noticeable that there's some things that need to change, and it's on the highest quality graphics it can be. It's like I can't make it any better than it is.
Right.
So, but I mean, like, what's your take on it though? Especially as like, I don't know how much time you've actually put into Diablo games though, but what's your take on at least this part of the Diablo universe?
It's a little weird, especially with everyone wandering around in the same world simultaneously, like it's a Warcraft type scenario world. You can just walk into town and there's 50 people, if however many people are in that server are and in that town, they're there and you can see every one of them as long as you're in the same instance or whatever. But and that's also led to some weird stuff when I'm out adventuring. I actually encountered more of it today than I did last night when we were playing, where I'd walk up to a group of enemies, say, and start attacking them, and after I
Hmm.
killed them, they were still like doing their attack animations
Oh,
on
yeah,
on
yeah,
like a
yeah. That's
person,
right. Yeah.
or yeah, it was like the instance wasn't finished because there were too many people around me for it to like conclude the instance and then restart when I left. So it just continued the instance going even after, it showed me killing, X amount of people already. And then I picked up their crap and then I had started to kind of walk away and I was like, hey, what's going on over here?
And
You came
it's like,
over and killed him, and it was just like it was done at that
yeah,
point.
it was like because I hadn't killed, because I was the party leader there, that like it hadn't fully registered it. And the fact, yeah, too, it's like that there are so many people running around that it's a hub world effectively. It feels really weird to just like you go in and now here's all these people just standing around. It's like, what is happening?
It
It's just
it's led
weird.
to some interesting item farming though on my end. I
Oh, has
found.
it?
Yeah, when
Okay.
you're wandering around, if you kind of wander around next to people that are kind of on a mission or whatever, if they open a chest and you're nearby, it counts you as being
Oh,
part of them
yeah.
opening the chest,
I
so it'll
saw
give
that, or
you
that
loot
happened to me
too.
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone's loot is, I think, or I'm fairly certain actually, is their own loot. So if you open a chest, you get loot, I get loot. You don't get to see my loot, and I don't get to see your loot, but it all spills out on our own screens.
That's right. Yeah, I remember seeing that happen before we started recording here. Was that, yeah, is that I was logged in and sure enough, it's like a random chest appeared. I think I took out like one enemy that was nearby, but it was some little like no level zombie that was just easy enough to take down. And yeah, then this massive chest appeared. It's like, oh, okay. And then there was one spot I went to that just had random gold all over the ground.
Yeah,
It was just there. It was like it was mist or something, and I was like, okay, well, hey, free currency, why not?
right. I've also managed to worm myself into like a back to back mini boss fight of the same boss, which is great for my experience, And
Hmm.
of course, if there's any random rare drops that they have, it it affords me the extra opportunity at whatever item they may have. But I don't know. It's been kind of weird
Hmm.
because of that. I'll wander into an instance and wander back out of it just far enough that someone will be popping back into the instance, and I'll just be like, okay, well, I'm gonna bebop with them,
I'm gonna join your crew here for a minute to just go
right?
ahead and
And
get all that loot, and then bye.
yeah, I double up on my loot. Sometimes I don't. I've noticed it. I don't know if it's a fix that they're working on right now or if it's just, random occurrence or whatever, but the loot has gone less and less since I've gone back to some of them. And I've only done it a few times, probably like a handful, but I have been able to double up on some of those mini boss fights and some of those weird double instance situations or tag teaming someone else's chest just because I'm in the vicinity.
Yeah, I haven't fully experienced all of that yet, but really the only one was just that chest that like I said, I took out one enemy. There was another guy fighting some. There was the big chest that had appeared, and then just that random gold that was all over the ground. That was it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but there were some things I was expecting for Diablo Immortal that I guess I haven't seen, and I like what surprised me first off was that it came to PC in the first place. Like that, oh, we've got a PC
Oh
entry now,
yeah.
and it was like, okay, well, I wonder what they're going to do with PC. And again, Genshin Impact stuff went through my mind, but it's a clone of what it is on mobile. Like literally every single thing there. It even says like tap to start as soon as you log in, like get the game running on your PC.
Yeah, if I was playing on my laptop, I could literally play with touchscreen.
I know you could. You really could. But then there was also, it's that, and then it's also the level of microtransactions that hit you too, right in the face. But it is a mobile game, so it's unfortunately part of it's the nature of the beast.
I kind of figured the microtransactions were going to be there, and admittedly, I already dropped $1 on the beginner's pack or whatever and got the extra skin. Yeah, I know. It matched my outfit.
Oh God,
it was like a flaming scythe thingy.
No, sure, no, it's fine. That's whatever. You do what you want. I don't care. It's your money. But I mean, I think that is a pretty good take from both of us there on Diablo Immortal. I'm going to keep playing it at least through. But what I did discover though, at least, is how to access my original copy through Battle.net of Diablo 2, the original Diablo 2, not the remaster. But yes, I have my copy of the original Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction, the expansion for it, that I can download and play.
Oh, awesome.
So now you need to go find a copy of it and like original Diablo 2, and then we can play that instead. Because no microtransactions, no hub world, just good old-fashioned Diablo.
Well, I've got Diablo 2 remastered, and I can flash back to the original graphics, but I don't think it'll let me join original Diablo 2 user, unfortunately.
I don't know. I mean, it shows up here in my list in Battle.net under just like the classic games because I had to look it up because like I know I have it, and it's like here it is. It's like there it is, Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction, which is nice. So it's at least there.
Right.
Something I can go back and play. I'm gonna probably download that sucker. I'm excited to download that again.
I've even played a little bit of Diablo 2. Admittedly, last night. I didn't mention it because I didn't play nearly as much of it as I played Diablo Immortal, even just today. And I only played Diablo Immortal in the car today, so it was like 45 minutes. So,
yeah, which means you're definitely probably way ahead of me then. So when we like party up, it's like, or we try to play again here at some point.
I'm not that far. I don't think I'm that far ahead of you because I think our mission still is the same. I just did 3 extra missions that got to that main objective. Because I think I'm at the Mad King sarcophagus at this point.
Yeah, and I did the Queen first, and then
I think we did the Queen together, didn't we?
No, I did that one myself.
Then maybe I did the King first. I don't know.
Because the Queen, that was because you had to go do the Queen, and then you can't go do the King until the Queen one is done. That's the one where it was like the crypt that opens up, and you have to take down like the necromancer that looks like the Grim Reaper.
Okay, yeah, I took him out real quick.
Yeah, so that was the Queen's grave that you had to go to.
Okay, yeah, and I'm fairly certain I just finished this thing, like finding the King sarcophagus because I had to go knock over these like pillar things and then fight a blood golem and a stone golem. I think one was in front of each of the. Only one. The blood golem was in front of one, and the stone golem was in front of the other. And then you go over to the the King's crypt, and I just kind of had to get off at that point because we were at dinner.
Well, I mean, that's again, you still made at least more progress than I did, and now it's like I've got to play catch up now. So maybe this is actually retribution for me being so far ahead in Halo Infinite's levels now too for the Season 2 Battle Pass. That's what it is. I figured out. Maybe. You get so far ahead there. That's it. But hey, let's use that then to transition to the other game we were playing then together was Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
So,
oh man,
God, Season 2, like it's right now. So in Halo Infinite itself, okay, because we just talked about stats for Trek to Yomi. So total time in Halo Infinite that I've put in is 5 days, 12 hours, and 52 minutes. Okay. That's the total amount of time that I've played this. Now, I got to find you again. Let's see. There's you on Xbox. There's you again. Let's see. There's Halo Infinite. And you have played... Really, Kyle?
What?
6 days and 45 minutes. You've played more hours than you've played like a whole. Oh, let's see, was that 6? Let's see, 6 days,
I think
45.
it measures some of that time though that
You've played a whole
potentially.
half a day ahead of me.
Yeah, maybe I have. I
You
think
play
that
with your brother though too, don't you?
in the first season I did. And I did play a little bit by myself in first season. But there is also some of that time, I'm sure, that there's got to be at least an hour and a half that's just dead air of me leaving the menu open. Because I'm guilty of that in all games. I just turn it on and walk off.
Yeah, and I think the other part I have though too is that I've played through the entire campaign and I've progressed quite a bit
Mhm.
through the, achievement list and that too. Like I've got 93 of 119 achievements done. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So yeah, but anyway, yeah. So on to Halo Season 2. Yeah, we're over the halfway point on the Season 2 Battle Pass now. Yes, we paid for the Battle Pass. Don't care. But the Battle Pass though itself, it's supposed to go all the way through November. And we've already had 2 in-game events,
Mhm.
and we've unlocked. You unlocked all of the stuff for one event, or at least,
The first part of the event,
yeah,
this
yeah.
recent one, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I did too. I did finish it up there at the end finally. But we did that, and then, oh God, what is it? We did that, and then we had this other event with the new land grab mode, which I roll my eyes at that one all the time. But we had all of that we did, and yeah, we're already like 3/4 of the way through the battle pass.
Yeah, to the
It's
point where I'm fairly certain if we only played on the days that were announced for the newest event, or the future days that were announced for the event,
mm-hmm.
we could still make level 100 and only be playing on those days.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially like with all of the double XPs that we banked from, like all of the rock stars that we pulled them from, and then all the other double XPs that
Oh
we
yeah.
unlocked after completing the battle pass.
Well, and I didn't even have double XPs left, for this season. I'm sitting on probably still right now 50 XP or 50 challenge swaps.
Oh yeah, see, I burned through all of mine, so but it was the
Yeah,
double
no,
XPs that I've been trying. Like I've got I think like 8 or 9 left.
oh yeah, no, I burned through those like instantaneously. I was like, I need to catch Travis.
See, now it's like I don't have a battle pass to burn on Diablo, or at least one that I want to pay for to go and try to catch up to you there. So
Right.
there's our other trade off. But I'm Halo Infinite is such an interesting game in the sense of like what the greater Halo universe is that we still don't have Forge, we still don't have campaign co-op. The amount of maps that we have hasn't grown as much. They added 2 new maps with Season 2, but
Gameplay
then
mode growth has been kind
gameplay
of
mode has been
stagnant.
growth. Yeah, because it's like there are community-made maps or community-made things, but it's not as involved and not as like in your face as it is in like Halo Master Chief Collection, or even before Master Chief Collection existed, like the previous original releases of the Halo games. So
Mhm.
with all of that, and then of course the fact that we haven't had any mention of DLC for the campaign, a lot of the story stuff is really being written right now for the battle pass, or at least the seasons that they're having. It's so interesting, like, to see what's happening with Halo right now.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think that the biggest thing everyone's waiting to see at this point is Forge mode. I mean, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
Co-op campaign is going to be a big thing, but at this point, especially with the lack of maps and game modes, I think the next big step for Halo is going to be Forge mode. If they can get that out, I think it would put less pressure on them to put out the co-op campaign, even though they have a lot of people chomping at the bit. But it gives, at least it gives us as the user more options of what to do, what to play, and custom game modes to create.
Yeah, especially like with the potential to get back to some of those community maps anyway. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I know the one that's been talked about quite a bit from people is like seeing Griffball make a return in Infinite, because that's
Right.
just one that was part of the regular playlist that you could hop in and play. Um, and it's no like it's not short of being fun. I think a good example of like how Griffball will definitely like feel in this is just like the match we had a couple nights ago where we were playing on that new the ship decommissioning yard map. I can't remember the name of it, but we were doing oh god, what's the name of the mode? It's not land grab, but it's the big team battle mode. The
Oh,
territories,
domination.
yeah, which yeah. So anyway, yeah, we're in that tunnel underneath, and all 3 points are in that same tunnel, and just the amount of chaos going back and forth that we
Oh
can't
man.
capture like the 3 points and the other team can't either. But the amount of damage and chaos that we were all causing in there because of it, that's the type of chaos I was looking for. And that's why I think when Griffball returns, it's going to be monumental to see it come back, or at least see even variants of it, because of the rumor of how big Forge mode is going to be, or at least how detailed Forge mode is going to be. Hell, one person on Twitter actually even put out that a great idea for Griffball is that someone needs to do it when Forge comes out, is to make a stadium and put Marines on one side of the stadium and grunts on the other side of the stadium. And if you can get them to animate and cheer and all that while you actually play Griffball, that would be pretty slick. Just
That
actually
would be
have that
cool.
dynamicness, like, or that dynamic side, like you hit someone carrying the ball and they go down, you get the cheers from one side or the other.
Even if
It's
it
just
was just like a
awesome.
small gathering of each of the forces,
Yeah. It
just
would
at the end of each of the things, even if it was just something small like that, it would be
it
super
would be
cool just to
awesome.
throw something in like that.
I'd be all for it, especially, yeah. Uh, but I guess what's really hitting me though more with the Halo stuff than anything is the fact that campaign co-op isn't there, because I I'm getting the itch to restart the campaign because I didn't get all the
And I
skulls
haven't
the
even
first time
finished it.
around. Yeah. Like I didn't get all the skulls the first time around. I have some of them. But at the same time, when I do campaign co-op, I usually go up to the next difficulty. I play normal, like I was talking about with Trek to Yomi. I play normal because I want to enjoy the experience and I want to
Mhm.
be able to enjoy the game with, your general sense of difficulty. But for going up to hardcore and legendary, that's where it's like I'd want to play with someone else. And that's why I'm bummed, because I want to play campaign co-op with you. And we can't right now because it's still not there. A mainstay of the
Right.
game is still not there, but it looks like it's getting close. And we've only got about 2 months to go until it's supposed to be out.
Only.
Only. Oh man, I mean, Halo still at least just keeps dragging us in. I mean, it's not a bad game, but there are definitely moments where we're just ready to flip our keyboards and say screw this and go play something else.
Right.
Which is funny to say because I mean, you talked about 2 games we've been playing together, was Diablo Immortal and Halo Infinite, but I'm going to throw a third one in there, and that's Fortnite, because for some reason we've decided that
Oh yeah.
Fortnite is our we're sick and tired of playing Halo Infinite, so we're going to go play Fortnite, and we do better in Fortnite than we do in Halo Infinite sometimes.
Ironically, the one game that I've talked the absolute most shit on, and it's just
Oh yeah,
it seems to be one that we're actually decent at, which is ironic.
yeah,
I mean,
and
just the other night we pulled 2 victories
yeah,
back to back.
and it's funny because like I was telling my wife, it's like, yeah, Kyle's making me install Fortnite because you had brought it up. Which was just joking on that one anyway, because like, oh yeah, Kyle said he wants me to install Fortnite, so I guess I'm going to do that. And my wife gives me this glare. It's like, you tell the kids how many times about avoiding Fortnite and playing Fortnite and all this and the chaos that game brings in. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm not playing the build mode version where you're literally running around in the battle royale and building towers out of stuff and have to collect the resources. No, I'm playing a new mode called no build mode, which basically just makes the game a standard battle royale where you just run around, collect weapons, and just kill people. It's like, that's all I'm doing here. But then, of course, after I tell her that anyway, the next day she goes and talks to the kids, and then it's just getting ribbing from the kids about playing Fortnite. It's like, Dad, come on, you were telling us not to. Now here you are. It's like, I know, and I'm pretty okay at it, at least
Do
in
as I say,
build.
not as I do.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, do not use me as your example for a few of those things. Some things, yes, but when it comes to Fortnite, probably not. So, yeah, but it's just funny because that's become our fallback game when we get pissed off at Halo.
Yeah.
I don't know why,
It,
but
I feel like it's definitely you look at games like PUBG or Warzone, and it it's a lot more simplistic as far as it goes. You know, you don't have to worry about all the different weapons and all the different attachments and stuff. It's like there's an assault rifle, there's two different ones. There's also a burst assault rifle, and that's it, you know. And then there's like two submachine guns, and there's two pistols, and that's it. You don't have to worry about all this extra crap. And you know, when you're not having to worry about, you know, lunatics building giant
oh yeah,
towers, you know, it being crazy, it it's very low impact compared to some of the more hardcore battle royales. And I think that's why it's easier for me to play that one and just be like, okay, it's
oh
good to
yeah,
chill and
100%.
do this. Yeah.
100%. That's exactly the way I am with it too. Is that there is some difficulty to it, but I don't feel like I'm burned out by it when I'm playing it sometimes. Because yeah, the
Yeah.
lack of building really helps. Uh, but yeah, I mean, out of the games that we were playing there together,
It has led to some absolute confusion from me. I'll tell you what. Just some of the stuff I see in
oh
that
my
game, I'm like,
god.
what is going on?
Yeah, especially like it's like I spend a lot of time on TikTok, unfortunately, and a lot of the music that's in TikTok anyway, at least like the popular ones are now like dances and the things in Fortnite. It's like it is just is there some like 12-year-old that's just scrolling through TikTok and is like pressing a green button when hearing a good song or seeing a good dance, then hitting a red button when seeing something negative, and that's what's driving the actual changes in Fortnite? Because I'd believe it if that was the
Oh
case.
yeah,
I really would. It's a
I believe
caffeinated
it.
12-year-old, like over caffeinated, excuse me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but besides those few games we were playing, separate for at least me, I already talked about Trek to Yomi. But the first one has been Apex Legends Mobile. And I know you have that on your phone, right? But you haven't really played much
I've
of it.
neglected to play it yet, so
Well,
yeah, unfortunately.
I will say for the size of my screen, thanks to thanks to the fact that it's an iPhone and I've got these massive hands, uh, I feel like I'm going to get carpal tunnel from playing this. That I'm going to develop even more arthritis than I probably already have developing now from playing games and keyboard mouse stuff all over the years. But it's not bad though, at least in the sense of a mobile game. And outside, again, just like any mobile game, it's the microtransactions that sometimes kick the crap out of you. But this one has a little bit in your face. Like there's one pop up that comes up as soon as you boot into the game that says, go spend the money on the Apex coins here in the game for this much, and then you dismiss that, and that's really the only thing about the microtransaction stuff that's right in your face, other than like all the other menus you can go through to the shop or wherever else. But the game, it's just exactly like one for one with Apex Legends on the computer or on console. The only difference is that they don't have every character from the game in there. They've got, I would say, about maybe half of them, and they have one that's exclusive to mobile. So they've got that, and then a lot of the stuff that you're doing in there too, especially, is auto pickup based. So you run around and while you're still looking for weapons, ammo, armor, shield batteries, shield cells, backpacks, what have you, you are able to just run by that stuff and pick it up, and the game will determine what's the best for you based on what you have. So if you have a weapon that can use this scope, well, it'll automatically pick it up and attach it to your weapon. If you have,
That's handy.
it's like if you're in level 2 armor, but there's level 3 armor, when you open up this the supply crate here, it will have it will automatically apply it to you. And the same, of course, as you're going through and passing by healing items, it will just start picking up those healing items as long as you have space in your inventory for them. Same with ammo, all that. but it plays great. It actually feels good. The only problems I have with it, of course, is because it is a touchscreen, and I don't, like on a console, like playing with a controller, you actually have your triggers to shoot while you're moving around. It gets really weird to move around and try to shoot at the same time, especially because what you're having to do is kind of like aim yourself just right and then strafe left and right while shooting.
Yeah.
Like with the touch controls. If I paired my controller to it, which it supports, it'd probably be okay, and I can get past that. As it stands right now, I can kind of deal with it because I've done okay. And out of every game I've played on there so far, I don't know how many games I'm in, but I've only lost 2 matches in there. I've been able to be Apex champion in all of them, save for 2, which is all right.
I wonder though
fun.
if that's partially because there's bots or if you're just really that good.
Well, when I look at like some of the games like PUBG Mobile, for example, where it seems like people got really good really quick at that game, a lot of it was because they figured out how to emulate the game onto, say, like PC, or they've interfaced a keyboard and mouse into their mobile device.
Yeah, and I know early on there were some like Twitch streamers and stuff that got in trouble for, like, they got hard banned while they were live on Twitch stream for using keyboard and mouse and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
On mobile versions of the game. So
yeah, exactly. And that's where like my concern is coming up here soon, is that's going to be like that. So I think the reason why I have been so successful, at least so far, is it might be a lower rank thing, but it also could be the same problem I run into with the adaptability to the touch controls and trying to get yourself lined up in the right spot to be successful, to cause damage, to take down enemies. The mapping isn't bad to say. It's just using touch controls is really what drives everything crazy. So I'll have to try it paired up with a controller, but it's definitely not bad. And I think out of like the battle royale games out there, because I did play PUBG Mobile too for a while, I actually enjoy this one quite a bit more.
Nice.
So it's nice.
Definitely gonna have to try it out. I need to try it out bad.
Yeah, and if you link your EA account to it, while there's no cross progression in any of it, you are able to unlock some stuff if you do link up your account. It's the same way with Diablo Immortal, where you sign in with your Battle.net account and get the cross progression. You also get some rewards for linking them too.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But last thing on the game list, though, for me, and this was actually last night, was Valheim. So my kid is playing Valheim or got back into it and started up a new world and got past the second boss, the Elder, and reached a point where in the game they got stuck in a bad spot. Basically, you remember in Valheim the Death Skeetos when you'd get into like the plains? Did you ever run across Death Skeetos?
You know, I don't think I ever actually beat the Elder.
Oh, okay.
Or if I did, we didn't get past, after finishing the first or fighting the Elder. So
okay, well, so these little bugs here, I mean, they float around and you think, oh, they're not going to do much to you. Well, they're called Death Skeetos for a reason, Kyle. And these Death Skeetos, unless you have a ranged weapon or you have enough armor or even a shield to help keep you protected, you're going to die probably really quick. And that's what was happening to my kid, is that they're going into the plains, like just after getting the Elder, because they need to go put the Elder's mount back up over at the shrine to unlock the ability. And they couldn't, because those Death Skeetos kept killing them. And then also mobs of the gray beards or the gray dwarves, whatever they are, kept on just like mauling them. They couldn't stop. So the last time I played Valheim, we had already had all the, this was with another set of friends of mine from work. We had beaten all of the bosses. We had already had unlocked some higher tier armor. We had made up a bunch of higher tier food that gives you a lot of stamina and health. And so my kid asked me for help, and I sign in, but I sign in with all of this top tier loot that they haven't even unlocked yet in their world, that they're not even close to. And so here I come, to save the day. but they're in such an awkward position. It's like, oh, well, you need to make a boat to get to me. Well, okay, I see I need to make a boat then. It's like, okay, well, I got all the materials here, so I got to go do that and figure out like how to play Valheim again because it's been a year. But I have to go and rescue them effectively. I don't die, thankfully, or lose any of my stuff. I come pretty close. But I had to go save them. And that was by far one of the more interesting things I had to go do, at least to get them back to a safe spot. But
that's funny.
What we've decided on, at least now, though, is that because I have Valheim and he has Valheim, probably going to end up buying it for one of the other kids, too, and then make up a home server for all of us to play on here again and start over from the beginning, because they've added quite a bit since the last time I actually sat down and played. I think the last time, I was telling my kid this, too, earlier, was the last time I played was before the first expansion. It was the one before the expansion where they added in a lot more of like the design and decoration type stuff. I can't remember the name of the actual expansion, but yeah, it was just before they added that. So there's a lot I need to do again and start over with again. But man, and that's something, I mean, I know you have Valheim, so you're more than welcome to join in too. I'll just have to drop you, IP details and that to join in. But man.
Oh, heck yeah, I'm always down for some Valheim. Man.
Yeah, that was interesting to go back in and play again. And then, of course, talking about the things they haven't encountered yet, like the sea serpents as well. That'll be one that for all of you guys to see, especially when they come charging your boat and your boat's not fast enough. So,
yeah, not looking forward to the sea serpents.
Yeah, they were a problem. The death skeetos, though, especially too. Like just when you see them, but when they do die, they do drop needles, and you can turn those into some pretty powerful arrows too. So
nice.
Keep that in mind. But that's all we've been playing as of late, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up, don't you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well,
this is probably our longest one in a long time.
This is our longest one. I think for the 180th episode, after 3 years of doing this, I think it's warranted.
We've earned it.
We have earned it, especially, yeah. So, of course, let's go ahead and end the 180th episode here on our 3-year anniversary by saying, of course, thank you so much for 3 years of support. Thank you so much for 3 years of listening to us, watching our videos, subscribing to our content, doing all of the things that you've been doing to help us continue along as we continue to provide you some type of entertainment or information. And we hope to continue carrying this on, of course, as we go into the rest of 2022 and into 2023. With that, of course, though, be sure, if you haven't subscribed to us yet and somehow you are still listening to us, hey, that's still awesome. Be sure to subscribe to us, though, on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Of course, you can find us on our homepage, anchor.fm/the-NPCs-podcast. Go and look for the podcast platform that you do use on there, or go search on that podcast platform. We're on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio. One of the more popular ones, according to our statistics here right now, is a platform called, Podcast Addict. And that one's been more popular as of late. So that's a good app maybe to go check out. Maybe pull that one in and go give us a try on that. Of course, with YouTube as well here too, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, follow us on social media for when we do make the occasional post there too. But with that, everybody, that is it for this week's NPCs episode. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for 3 years. It's been fun. It's been interesting. And there's still more to come from us. So we'll catch you all in the next one.
Laters.